Wake that ass up.
Early in the morning.
The Breakfast Club.
Morning, everybody. It's DJ Envy, Angela Yee, Charlamagne the Guy. We are The Breakfast Club. We got a special guest joining us this morning, Cynthia Erivo. Welcome.
Thank you very much. Hello.
Good morning, Cynthia.
Good
How
morning.
are you?
Good morning. I'm good, thank you. How you doing?
I'm blessed, black, and highly favored.
Fabulous.
Well, obviously, we're here to talk about the Genius Aretha series that you're starring in as Aretha. So were you a huge fan of Aretha? Because I know you're already a singer and a songwriter. What was your connection before the series?
Yeah, I was a big fan. I'm a big fan. I started listening to her maybe when I was about 9. And I fell in love with how she communicated through her music, how she was able to like commit a feeling, an emotion, and a circumstance through song. And I was learning through her how to do that for myself.
So how did this role come about?
I was on the red carpet at the Tonys, and I was asked by Mark at Variety to sing my favorite song, or like my guilty pleasure song, and Ain't No Way was one of my songs. And in fact, he didn't ask me to sing, he just asked me what it was. And then when I told him what it was, he sort of gave the nod, well, sing some of it, please. So I sung a bit of the song, and that went back to Brian Grazer and Clive Davis. And then I got a message saying that they had heard me sing this on the red carpet and that they wanted me to come in and talk about playing the role. Yeah.
Wow. Cynthia, what's the most important thing when it comes to playing these roles? Because the first thing I think is when I see it, I say, she don't look nothing like Aretha Franklin. So what's the most important thing?
I think the most important thing is whether or not you can find the essence of that person, because it's one thing to mimic a person, but that's not what I am. I'm not a mimic. I can't do that. That's not what I'm not an impressionist. And if that's all I was, the rest of the story couldn't be told. So I guess it's wanting to tell the story as fully as possible. It's wanting to find out what the essence of her was. It's finding out what her music did and how her music was sung, and the method that she was singing in, the technique she had. And it's I think the want of everyone around me as well to want to tell it. Just the same as Diana Ross did for Lady Day. Mm-hmm. She looked nothing like her, but she had her essence down to her T. It was really special.
Mm-hmm. Now, were you able to speak with her? I was going to ask, were you able to speak with her family before doing this and maybe get some insight about her life and anything like that?
I wasn't able to speak to her family, but I'm lucky enough to know a lot of people who were very close to her. So I spoke to a lot of those people. I had a conversation with Miss Felicia Rashad as well about Aretha, and Glenn Turman actually spoke to us about their relationship and how he felt about her, and that was a wonderful thing to find out too. Yeah.
It was difficult, I think, for you to be in this position, right, where you want to play this iconic role, but then there was so much controversy with the family and everything as whether or not they wanted this to even happen. So how did that play into your decision?
The thing is, I didn't know about what was happening with the family prior to this. All of this is sort of like coming out in the wash now. So for me, I had already believed that everyone had the information and the permissions that they needed. And as far as I knew, they were already speaking to the estate that had already allowed for this to happen. So my job was just to play the Queen of Soul as fully and as truthfully as I possibly could. Yeah. And it's heartbreaking because for me, you know, I love her. I would never do anything that causes any harm to her. I would never do anything that doesn't show her in the light that she's meant to be shown. The woman had an incredible life, an incredible career, and had to work through some really tough things. And I think that the thing that we get to show with this is how much she had to work to get to where she was, and how difficult it was at the time that she was living through to get to the thing that we know now. Which for me makes her even more of a hero than we realized.
Did you have any reservations to play this role because of the Respect movie that's coming out later this year with Jennifer Hudson?
No, for me, I think that the more the merrier. I think there's a strange understanding that we can only have one, but we have many Marilyn Monroe films, many Judy Garland films, many presidents films of which name the president, and we have more than one. And I thought that what a wonderful way. I knew that she would get her wish with Jennifer Hudson and she would get an extra with my version. That's it.
So you were singing for real in this movie. I mean, in the series.
Yeah, very much.
That's amazing. that's a lot of pressure too, to be singing these Aretha songs, because everybody's like, okay, but you did amazing.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Yeah, I've been singing her songs for a long time now. She's who I learned from. So I was really excited to learn the intricacies of the decisions she would make in a song. No one song is the same. She has her own very special way of singing everything. One song can be sung in 3 different ways if you listen to the different versions by Aretha. And I took the time, every song that we had, an hour or 2, to work through every single one to make sure that I could get the small bits and pieces, the small details that she would have in her songs. Yeah.
But you sing though, right? Don't you got an album coming out this summer?
Yeah, I do sing, yeah.
You got an album coming out this summer, right?
I do, yes.
Who you signed with?
Verve Universal, yeah.
Okay.
So you doing a lot
about to
during
give
this
her a deal?
pandemic. You got an album during this pandemic. You acting during this pandemic. You doing a lot. You making sure your time is you doing your time the right way.
Right, yeah. I was recording it whilst I was doing Aretha. So we would finish in the week and I would have to go and vocal everything on the weekend. So the week was full of Aretha, the weekend was full of me singing what I wanted to sing.
How do you dump that though? I mean, you channeling like this great diva during the week. Like how do you put that to the side to focus on the energy you want to put out in your music?
I don't know that you can completely put it aside. I think that in a way you kind of have to use it. And I guess I was using the inspiration that I was getting from doing this show at the same time, the details that she would have, the detail-oriented way she would use her music, the style. And I know who I am individually, but there's a real passion in Aretha that I already had, but was amplified because I got to play her. So I kind of used it, I guess. It's a great thing to be able to use that kind of energy to perform. You sort of get fired up, really, yeah.
Now, I wanted to ask you about just even for yourself, right, in preparing for this role. And did you know a lot of things about Aretha, or did you learn a lot while doing this? Because I was watching it and I love Aretha Franklin.
Mm-hmm.
When her house was for sale in Detroit, I was like, it had this big rose in the middle of the carpet. I was like, man, I wish I could buy this Aretha house. That's like a monumental thing.
Yeah.
But even when you're watching the first couple of episodes, you're learning a lot about her childhood and how crazy it was.
Yeah. I knew some things and I learned some things. The thing I think it's an incredible feat to be able to be who she was after being a mother at such an early age. And I knew it, but when you're working through it and you're putting it in context, it becomes even more amplified that this woman had to be a mother and a young woman before she was even ready to, but still was able to work through that and become Aretha Franklin that we know and love. I didn't know how deeply she was working with the civil rights movement. I didn't know that she had a relationship with Martin Luther King. I didn't know such close friends. That was an eye-opening moment for me. And I think it was the first time that I was able to put into context the fact that her Young, Gifted and Black album was because of that she had made a decision to make an album that spoke to the times that they were living through, that she was living through. And it was a really wonderful moment to acknowledge, just because I think people don't realize how much work she was doing that was for more than just making music. And to piece together this moment between sort of the early 50s, 60s, and that section in between where she's singing jazz and it's not landing enough, it's not landing the way she wants it to, and knowing that she had to find her sound, that we get to maybe late 60s into the 70s, that she was searching for and had the determination to find. And that was a new revelation for me as well, that she was really like working to find out who she was whilst being her.
You know, Cynthia, we spoke about energy a little earlier. What energy have you channeled with Aretha and Harriet, for that matter, that was hard to get rid of?
Harriet was something different. Harriet was
traumatic, I would assume.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I had a little mini breakdown after Harriet, because it was just tough to get rid of all of the loss. Because as she was saving people, she was losing a lot of her family at the same time. And she had lost her husband, she had lost her sisters. She she saved her family, but I think she almost lost her brothers. So, you know, for that, it was like this energy of loss. But there's both of these women have an amazing amount of bravery. So there's this courage that I think I've picked up from both of these women, that I think I'm happy to have gained. I think I've had courage, but I didn't really truly understand what it was until I played these two women.
Yeah, we saw Lakeith Stanfield say that he had to, you know, go to therapy after playing a role like William O'Neill. Did you have to do that after playing a role like Harriet?
Yes. Yeah. Still go to therapy for it. Yeah, it's a lot. It was a lot to physically and mentally. Both those things combined were put through their paces. And yeah, I'm not in, like, occasionally I thought she's gone, but even when I speak about it, it still like gets me. Yeah.
How hard is it to get out of character? Because, I mean, when people look at actors and actresses, it just feels like, oh, they did a great job, on to the next one. But it seems like that character gets stuck with you, and it's hard to get out.
I think if the character means enough to you, they leave a part of them behind. You always are left with a small piece of that character. You might be able to filter the rest of it out, but you'll always be left with a bit of them. I don't think you ever really completely get rid of a character, to be honest, if they mean something to you. And because these two women were real, I think it's really tough to put them down. Like you don't really ever want to leave them behind, because they're people. You get to know them, you get to understand them, you get to almost speak for them. So yeah, it's tough to leave them.
Wow.
Yeah.
You know, it's an 8-part miniseries, so we've only seen the first couple of episodes so far. But what is hard to watch is like a complex relationship that Aretha has with her father, right? So can you speak on that and how you kind of delved into that when you were doing this role?
Yeah, they had a complex relation. I think she had a lot of complex relationships. And this one was significant because partially it's the reason why we have her. He, you know, had her out with him at a really early age, and she was listened to by a lot of people, and she was singing at a very early age. And I think that she loved him deeply, was very afraid to let him go when he was dying, and still partially was that little girl who was afraid to be without her father. But at the same time, she was an adult before she was ready to be. And so there was this strange relationship of how do you compartmentalize and how do you work out how to keep this child a child whilst she's also a mother. That happened very quickly. And so I think that it never really balanced itself, to be honest. Yeah.
You know,
That hurt my heart watching this little girl, like 12 years old, just pregnant.
It's tough.
That hurts your heart, like to even see that. And you're like, how did this even happen?
Right. It's just and I it always, because I always have to think about it this way, it always amazes me that 12-year-old girl who was a mother became the woman that we know and love. I don't know how she did that. I don't know how she was able to be a mother and be Aretha Franklin. I don't know how, because we only know to a small extent how that must have affected her mentally. But I don't know to the fullest extent how that would have been. And it does. It's like it's terribly painful to even witness. Yeah.
That can be triggering too, though, right, Cynthia? If you don't have a strong relationship with your father and you got to play that role, right? Because I think a lot of times for a lot of us, relationships with fathers sometimes are complicated because they feel more transactional than nurturing and loving, like mothers.
Yeah. That, and for me, that's very true. I don't have a strong relationship with my father at all. I haven't. I think the last time I spoke to him, I was 16.
Yikes.
Now. Yeah.
So this role hit a little different for you, huh?
Oh yeah. It's because I also think that she spent a lot of her life trying to please people, trying to make a lot of people happy, and sometimes forgot to do it for herself. Sometimes forgot to care and make herself happy, which I can relate to. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Wow.
And you have your own production company as well, right?
Yeah. It's called.
So what kind of projects?
Yeah, it's called Edith's Daughter, and we are trying to make sure we show projects about women like myself and yourself in spaces that we never get to see, that we exist in already, but they're very rarely shown to the world. So whether it be Sarah Forbes-Bonnetta, who was essentially a princess in the UK, but was basically erased from history, or a wonderful woman called LaDonna, who happened to be a security guard at JFK, which, you know, there are many LaDonnas in JFK that we walk past every single day and don't even realize that the reason we're able to get to our flights or get to our destinations is because they're taking care of us. And often they're the most underrepresented people in the space, but they're actually doing the hardest work. And I'm always looking for those people. There's everything from hopefully espionage to historical drama. Yeah.
You know, Cynthia, there's always criticism about non-Black Americans playing roles of Black American icons. I feel like that convo might have started with you when you played Harriet. I'm not sure, but what do you say about that?
I don't think it started with me. It may have started with, I think it started with David maybe, but it definitely continued with me.
Gotcha.
Sure.
What do you say about that?
I say that we're still in a space of lack. And so what happens is we come at these roles as though they are the very last time that it can be played or seen, which is just not the case. Mm-hmm. And I hope that my playing something doesn't mean that someone else can't play this role. And that British Black actors are actors first and foremost. Our job is to tell the story as truthfully as we possibly can. And I know that I didn't get into this career to play myself. I do that very well already, but that's not my passion. My passion is to tell stories of those who aren't able to tell their own stories. And that might be an American, it might be a Scandinavian, it could be South African, it could be Nigerian, it could be British. As long as the story is something that I believe in, that's the story I want to tell. Yeah. As in, and hopefully now I can create more roles for other people. That's the aim.
Right. Have you ever looked at an American playing a role of an African or, you know, a British person and said, that person shouldn't be playing that role because they're American?
No, mm-hmm. No. I don't know. It's so strange because it didn't occur to me that was an issue until I got here. Mm-hmm. I've never looked at, like, there are so many British roles that have been played by Americans, so many. And there have been African roles played by Americans, but I've never been like, why isn't an African playing that role? Yeah. Why isn't a British person playing it? Because, you know, we're actors.
Absolutely. Yeah. And you're writing a children's book too, right?
I've written it. It's ready. Okay. It just has to be printed, and it comes out in September the 28th, I think. And I wrote it maybe a year ago, and this year was spent finalizing it and getting the illustrations together, and I'm really excited.
You did a lot during this pandemic. You did an album, you wrote a children's book, you did films.
I did.
What is the children's book about? What is it?
It's called Remember to Dream Ebere. Ebere is my sister's middle name, and it's essentially about trying to teach. Well, it's not just for young people. It's teaching anyone who reads it to dream as big as you please. That no dream is too big, but to also dream in detail. So to put all the small details in this big dream, because I think that's the easiest way to make it be realized. So
that sounds like an adult book.
That's why I was like, well, I think it's fun for everyone.
We can read that now, and I love it.
Now, also, I see there was a rumor that you were in a relationship with Lena Waithe. That's our good friend up here. Mm-hmm. Any truth to that?
I mean, here's the thing. Like, I understand we have to ask it, but if you ask that question and I give you your answer, that means that you are suggesting that I need to tell you what my sexuality is right now, which means that if I'm not ready to come out here, you would be outing me.
I like how you threw that back on me. So I didn't ask that question, but check out Aretha, the genius Aretha, and we appreciate you for checking in. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Yes, you are killing it out here, by the way. I just want to say, Harriet, I watched that movie on the plane, and I was so emotional during that. And Aretha is one of my favorite. I took my mom to go see Aretha, and it's like one of the really special moments in my life with my mother, because she was so just like amazed by being able to even do something like that. I have posters of Aretha in my house, so watching you play that role and sing and kill it, I just want to congratulate you on that, because I know it's not easy.
Thank you very much. Thank you. It means a lot.
All right.
And Envy didn't mean anything. He was just asking what's out there.
No, I just seen the rumors.
I know. She said, Cynthia said that. She was like, she understood why you had to ask.
Yeah. All right. Well, it's Cynthia Erivo. It's the Breakfast Club. Good morning. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.